All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Fairfield Zoning Board of Appeals, May 12, 2022. First, we have our executive session. We have a couple items on the agenda for that, and we'll reconvene our working session, or executive session, after the public hearing to vote on each matter that goes forward. But the first two preliminary matters, we have approval of the minutes for the April 7, 2022 hearing. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
There, is there a second? Thank you, Jane. No. But it's not as bad.
I was sleeping.
Any discussion? Hearing none, bring it to a vote. All say aye in favor.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. No abstentions. Motion carried. Second item is approval of secretary's fees. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thanks, Brian. Is there a second? Thanks, Jane. Is there any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, bring it to a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. And I'll repeat again before I make the call for the public hearing. A couple items that are not going forward. It's number 7 on our continued docket, 250 Pequot Avenue. That is going to be withdrawn. Number 3 on our continued docket, 1386 Hillside Road, is continued to next month. And number 12 on our regular docket, 888 Oakfield Road, is going to be continued to next month. And I announced before we opened up, this is our first meeting in person, and it's great. I'm happy to be here. I know the board members are happy to be here. We accomplished a lot remotely, but it's going to be much easier to go forward when we're all in person. We have a hybrid, so we're going to have some people that are joining us remotely, which I think one of the benefits that we have from COVID is that we're learning how to do these hybrid type meetings, which is a benefit to everyone. Allows a lot of public comment, which is great. Allows people that can't be here to voice their opinion, give their statement at a particular matter. So I think that's great. My instructions to the people online, just be patient. Similar to instructions that I've given when we're 100% remote. I will call out for the applicant to present, and if you're coming from remotely, if I open up when I call for any comment, since we're going to be hybrid, I'm first going to see if there's anyone in favor. So if you're remotely and you're in favor, let me know. Give me your name, and we will take you in order. I will then, if you're against it, I will allow, if you're remote, I will call out if there's anyone that's against it. Let me know if you're remote, and then we'll take you in proper order. So now I'm going to make the call. Zoning Board of Appeals, May 12, 2022, will now come to order. When a matter is called, I'll be making the call, but describing the information in the call that's on our agenda. And at that time, the board member, the applicant will present their particular application and obviously discuss why they think they should be receiving a variance of a zoning regulation. If you need to share something, please do so at that time. It's going to be a little easier than it was online, especially if you're here. You can just show it to us, which is excellent. If you want something put up on the screen, please let Mr. Decker know, and he will put that up and share it on the screen if it's something that's already been filed with the town. If you want to present something to us, each of us, hopefully you have copies, or if not, we can share them. Hopefully you can just show it to us, so we don't have to pass a lot of things around between us, and or we can put it up on the screen. After the applicant's presentation, I'll invite anyone who's interested in the matter who has a comment in favor. I will ask them to speak first. And like I said earlier, people that are remote, please let us know if you're in favor by giving your name, and then we'll take you in a proper order. If there's anyone that speaks in favor, I'll let them go. If there are no one, I will ask if there's anyone that opposes that application. Again, remote people, let us know. If you have opposition, we'll take everyone in order and give you an opportunity to speak. If there is any opposition to a particular application, then I will afford the applicant or his or her agent to address those comments in opposition. A point to the applicant or agent who's speaking, that is a rebuttal time period. It's not a time to, restate your application. It's a time to address the comments that were made in opposition to your application. The meeting is being taped, and that's required under our state law, and the reason it's being taped is if someone wants to question anything that is happening here or done, we need to have a clear record, so only one person can speak at a time. Anyone who does speak, please give me your name and address. And there's microphones here, there's a microphone up at the podium, so the applicant or people that are speaking, you go up to the podium when you speak. And remote people, just be loud and clear for us. And if I can't hear you when you're remote, I will let you know. That means that it's probably not being recorded. So I'm not being rude, I just want to make sure we have a clear record. I ask that, welcome the comments of everyone who has a position on any application going forward today. However, I do ask that you stick to the point of the Zoning Board of Appeals and the request for a variance, and not other issues which don't come before or not to be considered by this board. If you're too far off the point, I will exercise my right as the chairman to restrict your comments. Applicants and people that are interested, you can remain after the public hearing. We may need to take a short break, and we'll reconvene our working session. At that time, we will be voting on each application that goes forward today. If application goes forward, we have 5 voting members. You need a supermajority for your application to be granted, meaning you need at least 4 people to vote in favor of your application. If it's a 3-2, which is a simple majority, your application is denied. You can stay if you can't stay, or don't want to stay. That's okay, no offense will be taken. Plus, and you want to find out, call the zoning office tomorrow to find out what happened on your particular matter. However, for the people that are remote and the people that are here, I think it's a good idea to stay, because we allow you to hear our comments. And if you're interested in something, I think you'd be interested in why we're making decisions. And the only way you're going to know why we're making decisions is if you listen to our discussion. There might not be much discussion on it, but you know, if there is discussion, I think you'll want to know what we discussed on your particular application or the application you're interested in. If a waiver, application for waiver to be granted, it won't be valid until it's recorded. Therefore, you must bring or send a check in the amount of $60, making it out to the town of Fairfield, and send it or bring it to the zoning office Wednesday or later. That allows for proper recording and notice and filing. Any waiver that involves construction, whether it's a new dwelling, addition, or alteration, will require an as-built prior to an issuance of certificate of zoning compliance and a certificate of occupancy. Now I'm going to call our public hearing. First matter, continued docket number 7, 250 Pequot Avenue. That has been withdrawn. Second item on our continued docket, number 3, 1386 Hillside Road, going to be continued to our June hearing. Our first item for business is number 4 on the continued docket, and that is 95 Old Post Road, map 241, parcel 216, petition of Baltimore Associates Limited Partnership for a variance of the zoning regulations, section 12.7.6.1, to reduce the street line setback from 25 feet, currently 20.9 feet, proposing 21 feet, and section 28.8, to reduce the required parking spaces from 24, proposing 21, permission to construct a new 3-story mixed-use building premises, the zone. Attorney Fitzpatrick.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, nice to see you again face-to-face. For the record, my name is Bill Fitzpatrick. I'm an attorney in Fairfield with the law firm of Fitzpatrick, Fan, Bologna, with offices at 1735 Post Road. I'm here this afternoon representing Metro Holding Company, LLC, the purchaser of the property which contained Arthur's Hair Salon, located at 95 Old Post Road in Southport. This property is located in the designed industrial district, contains 17,692 square feet. This application was originally on your March 3rd, 2022 agenda and was continued to the April ZBA agenda to ensure the neighbors had the opportunity to fully review the application. This matter was then continued from the April ZBA agenda to today's meeting to permit a full dialogue between the project architect, Jack Franzen, and the Sasquatch Association, a neighborhood group. The intent of the applicant is to rezone the property from the present design industrial zone to design commercial district and to construct a three-story mixed-use building with retail on the first floor, office use on the second floor, and 3 residential apartments on the third floor. The location of this property, by our analysis, is not appropriate for an industrial use. The proposed mixed-use building is consistent with the town's emphasis on transit-oriented development and takes advantage of the ability from this property to walk to downtown Southport and the railroad station. To that end, the applicant is requesting a variance of section 12.7.6.1 of the zoning regulations to permit a reduction in street line setback from 25 feet, presently 20.9 feet, to 21 feet, and a variance of section 12.6.2 to permit a reduction in required parking from 24 spaces to 21 spaces in conjunction with the construction of a new mixed-use building. At this point, Mr. Chairman, to outline the specifics of the proposed building, I'd like to introduce Mr. Jack Franzen of J.P. Franzen Associates Architects with offices in Southport. Mr. Franzen is well known to this board. Jack.
Good afternoon. It's great to be here in person. Can't really remember the last time that occurred. I'm Jack Franzen, 95 Harbor Road, representing this property. And we're proposing a new building, as Bill explained, to replace the existing Arthur's Salon. Because of the unusual shape of the property, which is an acute triangle, I guess you'd say an acute isosceles triangle, it widens towards the south and becomes, attenuated at the north. The new structure will be sited at the extreme south end of the parcel, taking advantage of the greatest width at that point. The building will have 9,180 square feet on 3 levels. On the ground level, the gross area is 1,280 square feet, which includes core functions such as elevator and mechanicals, and a small retail space of 700 square feet. On the second floor, which grosses 3,975 square feet, there will be a net office space of 3,625 square feet. On the third floor, there's a gross of 2,925 square feet, totaling 3,280 square feet net with 3 units. Those 3 units will be comprised of 1 2-bedroom unit and 2 1-bedroom units. The remaining upper part of the triangular parcel will be the parking field, with some additional parking under the structure. The accessible parking will be one of those covered spots. The way the parking is proposed to be laid out actually reduces the amount of paving, which, you're probably familiar with if you visited the site. We're increasing the green area by 828 square feet, which also in turn reduces the runoff into the wetlands. And of course, Arthur's is so old, there's no stormwater retention there now, and if we get approved and we go through all the planning and zoning, we'll have to put modern stormwater retention in. We also provide a sidewalk along the old post road where none currently exists. The sidewalk will extend along the entire east side except for 2 curb cuts. Our parking requirements are 3.5 spaces for the lower level, 14.5 spaces for the second level, and 6 for the residential level. Our request here today is for relief on 3 parking spaces, as our 21 spaces is 3 spaces short of the required 24. Alternatively, we could request a 3-car reduction on parking when we get to P&Z, since our mixed uses will have redundant parking needs. The idea being when the people are, in the apartments or at work, the people in the office will be there and vice versa. And we expect there'll be a lot of extra parking on the weekends. We also have practical difficulties that are presented by the site, which on their own probably would justify this reduction. The difficulties would apply to the 4-foot setback waiver we're seeking on the east side. We're proposing virtually the same setback on that side as the existing Arthur's Salon, but we are reducing it slightly from 20.9 feet to 21 feet. So it'll be essentially the same setback, a little bit better. We're just totally wedged into a corner there due to the geometry of the property. Over the last 2 months, we have discussed our proposal with the Southport Conservancy and the Sasquatch Association and addressed various questions concerning primarily parking and access for larger vehicles. And so we have proposed to add a screen dumpster area and also place for trucks to pull off on the old post road, because there's a epidemic of Amazon and delivery trucks that's become really an issue, especially, it took me a half an hour to get here today because there must have been something going on I-95, so people cut through Southport because their phones tell them to. Anyway, we talked to Sasquatch. They felt that the parking request was de minimis, and also because of the fact that the offices in this building will probably not be used very much on the weekends, the new lot will provide overflow parking for the Sasquatch, which has their park right across the street. It has a very small parking lot. And I think it was on Earth Day, there were a lot of people from Sasquatch parking in the Arthur's parking lot, which we have no problem with if it's on an off-hours basis. Happy to answer any questions that you might have. Yes.
With the state of the world such as it is, working from home and such, what's the level of reliance on your tenants not being there for on hours?
I think it works both ways. There's probably some of the people in the residences will be working from home, but probably some of the people in the offices will be working remotely. I mean, that's how I've gone remote, but, you know, we still have an office and people come there, so, you know, I think it probably is a wash, but I think there will be a lot of spaces on the weekend that are not being used.
Any questions? Yes, I know, sorry, Ms. Patrick's going to continue, but any questions for Mr. Francis?
How many spaces do the buildings need?
6.
6 for the.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Mr. Francis?
Clarify, so you're requesting a change in the zoning from design industrial to, are you requesting, is there?
I'll take care of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just addressing the
That,
architectural, physical. It's over my pay grade. Thank you.
That's a long way to go over his paper.
Thank you, Jack. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the legal test for the granting of a variance is set forth in the Adolfson case, 207 Connecticut 703, 1998 case, which states regarding hardship under general statute, section 8-6, parents C and parents, local zoning board may grant a variance when 2 basic conditions are met. 1, the variance is shown not to affect substantially the comprehensive zoning plan, and 2, adherence to the strict letter of the zoning regulations is shown to cause unusual hardship unnecessary to the carrying out of the general purpose of the zoning plan. First part of the test, no substantial effect on the comprehensive plan is satisfied here with the proposed use. A mixed-use building is a permitted use in the design commercial district. The applicant will, at zoning, be filing an application for a change of zone from design industrial to design commercial. The second part of the test, adherence to the strict letter of the zoning regulations, is shown to cause unusual hardship unnecessary to the carrying out of the purpose of the zoning plan is satisfied here. I would submit by several factors. The first variance request is a reduction of the street line setback from the required 25 feet, presently 20.9 feet, to 21 feet. One factor for the board to take into account is the fact that the proposed street setback is actually farther, although minimally so, from the street than the existing building is at present. As such, the proposed building is a reduction of the existing street line setback nonconformity. In addition, this property was the subject of a variance in 1995, reducing the street line setback. Evidence of that approval has been submitted to the board. The applicant here proposes a street setback greater than that approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals in approving that variance in 1995. An additional factor for the board to evaluate in reviewing this variance request, as well as the second variance request, is the shape and configuration of this parcel of land. As you heard from Mr. Franzen, parcel is a triangular shape, which makes the layout of buildings and parking more challenging. In addition, this property has been mapped as containing inland wetland soils, as shown on the site plan which was submitted with the application, along the entire length of the rear property line, which pushes the building and parking toward the Old Post Road. The second variance request is a reduction of the required parking for the proposed mixed-use project from 24 parking spaces to 21 parking spaces. As noted, the triangular configuration of the property, as well as the presence of inland wetlands along the entire rear property line, makes the design of parking in the building more problematic. The board should also consider, in the valuation of this parking request, the text of 28.6.1 of the zoning regulations. 28.6.1 states, when dwelling units are located in a commercial district, as permitted in Section 12 of these regulations, the residential parking requirement may, at the Commission's discretion, be reduced by up to 50%. The 50% reduction mentioned in Section 28.6.1 is exactly what is being proposed here. The three proposed residential units have a parking requirement of 2 parking spaces per unit, for a total of 6 spaces. The applicant here is requesting a 50% reduction in the residential parking requirement of the 6 spaces to 3 parking spaces. That reduction of 3 spaces comprises the overall parking shortfall, which is a reduction from 24 spaces to 21 spaces. The rationale for the reduction of residential parking in a mixed-use building in a commercial district, as acknowledged by the Plan and Zoning Commission in enacting Section 28.6.1, is that residential units are likely to have parking demands that do not conflict with the parking demands for the commercial tenants. The likely highest residential parking demand is after 6 p.m., a time when the retail parking demand and certainly the office parking demand is minimal at best. Approval of this application permits the elimination of the existing one-story building, construction of a new mixed-use building with no construction any closer to a neighboring property owner than at present. For the reasons I've outlined, I'd request this application be approved. Mr. Howitt, the principal of Metro Holding, is here today, as is Mr. Franzen, and they and I would be happy to answer any questions the board may have. I do reserve my right of rebuttal, Mr. Chairman.
Attorney Fitzpatrick, is there any questions for Attorney Fitzpatrick, or if you thought of something for Mr. Franzen as well?
Hi. Is there public parking on that street at location?
Across the street, there's Miss Aspinall has a lot.
Is there on-street parking permitted?
I don't think there's on-street parking.
I don't think there is. I don't know the answer, but I don't think so.
There's a little bit in front of,
And then, will the spots for the apartments be clearly marked as only for the apartments?
No, the P&Z regs do not permit the delineation of parking spaces in a lot. They're not, when you see spots in a commercial zone reserved for chase, that's not legal. The whole idea is that the parking is available to every user.
Okay, and then the other thing is, I mean, all of this is contingent on you getting the rezone.
Correct.
So why are you here first?
Well, I'm here first because I tried to file the change of zone application first, and I was reminded that under the Fairfield zoning regulations, you can't file a change of zone application without a special permit application. So I would have to do, my client would have to do all the plans, architects, elevations for a building they did not want to construct when they wanted something a little different, if this variance is granted, and then go to P&Z, zone change special permit at the same time, then come back to ZBA. The recommendation of the zoning department was do this by going in the normal fashion that you would, go to ZBA first, outline for ZBA the fact you're making a zone change application, then go to wetlands, then go to P&Z.
So this design will not change, this is it.
Well, it has to go to zoning. Anything can happen in zoning. They can say, add 2 floors. Not likely.
This is the intent, this is it.
'Cause I'm certain we're gonna rework the design
Yeah.
over and over between now and then, and in Jack's meetings with Sasquatch, if we are lucky enough to get an approval here, we'll go to wetlands first. That will not require any redesign. But then when we go to zoning, there may be discussion with interested parties over specifics that could well change the design. They will not change the validity of the variance we are looking for today.
Joe, can I just say something?
Sure, Jack.
It's pretty common for Sasquatch, once you get to the planning and zoning, where they're talking about materials and windows and that sort of thing, for the neighborhood group to get involved and to make requests, and we expect that just based on our conversations that we've had. No, but they like things in Southport to look a certain way. Yeah, but it's not in the historic district.
Any other questions for Attorney Fitzpatrick? Okay. Now, open this up to whether there's anyone that wishes to speak in favor of the opposition. Please let me know. Is there anyone remotely? Is there anyone here in the audience? What was that?
Somebody's phone, I think.
Okay. Hearing none, is there anyone that wishes to speak in opposition? Attorney Staten, no. Is there anyone else, just so I can find out? Remotely, is there anyone opposition remotely?
I don't see any hands.
Okay, all right, go ahead, Attorney Staten.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Kevin Kersaden. My office is at 3 Lafayette Street in Milford. I'm here on behalf of some property owners across the street at 96 Old Post Road, Mark Finlay Architects. I had submitted a memo prior to last month's meeting. I think the board has probably had an opportunity to read it. I'm not going to go over every point on that, but I do want to highlight a couple of points. I think Attorney Fitzpatrick and I agree on what the standard for a variance is. I'm going to refer to Connecticut General Statutes 8-6. It's the same 2 conditions that Attorney Fitzpatrick mentioned. Must be shown not to substantially affect the comprehensive zoning plan, and adherence to the strict letter of the zoning ordinance must be shown to cause unusual hardship unnecessary to the carrying out of the general purpose of the plan. The issue here is, and I think there was a couple of earlier questions to Attorney Fitzpatrick, this is really putting the cart before the horse, because the application and the use that's being presented is not currently allowed in this zone. It's allowed in the DCD zone, the Design Commercial District zone, not in the DID zone. So technically, this board cannot make a finding that the application is in compliance with the comprehensive plan, and the comprehensive plan consists of your zoning regulations and your zoning map. The mixed use that includes residential is not allowed in the DID. So the board really can't get past that initial requirement or standard. Secondly, adherence to the strict letter of the zoning ordinance must be shown to cause unusual hardship unnecessary to the carrying out of the plan. The board, in their decision-making process, decides that they can't get past the first standard. There's really no hardship stated. There's no hardship stated in the application. There's no evidence that other properties in the DID zone don't have inland wetlands on them, or may or may not be triangularly shaped or oddly shaped. In this particular application, it's 7,000 plus square feet over the minimum required square footage for properties in the DID zone. It exceeds the minimum square by 10 feet, or I think 12%. And it meets substantially all the other requirements. The fact that they're asking for what they state as a minimal request for a setback doesn't highlight the fact
that the building is being extended 10 feet on that property line. At least that's my reading of the plans. And I believe the building currently is 1 story, and where you're gonna be proposing 3 stories. The other thing I would like to point out is that the application, and Attorney Fitzpatrick pointed out that the Planning and Zoning Board has discretion to adjust the parking requirement or discover, make a decision of parking adequacy or reduce it by 50%. If that's the case, then this board, there's no real reason for this board to act or find a hardship with respect to parking. If they move forward with the application, get the zone change, file the special permit, they can ask for the Planning and Zoning Board to make that determination. It's within their jurisdiction to do that. So I don't know that this board necessarily has jurisdiction to make that decision. What's really driving this is it's the size. This is the size of the structure that they want, and these are the uses that they want. They could comply fully with a new structure with every single regulation in the Fairfield zoning regulations. So there's really, this is really either a personal or financial request or a hardship, not a hardship that is tied with, that arises out of the regulations. And as you apply the regulations to this particular piece, they're not able to do the project that they want to do. That's really the standard. You could take the regulations, apply it to this land, and they would just build a slightly smaller building. So that's really, those are the main points. I, went through, I don't want to bore the board with going through all the other different aspects of the memo that I read, but I'm available to answer any questions.
Any questions for Attorney Casado? All right, thank you, Attorney Casado. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak in opposition to this matter? And Attorney Casado, I know we had something also part of our record from Mr. Finley, and we did receive something from Mr. Roberts, but you are, you were representing Mr. Finley, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Hearing nothing further, Ms. Patrick, you can address those comments. I mean, I know you received a letter if you want to address that, as well as Mr. Roberts, but you have a letter from Mr. Finley, and you have Attorney Casado's memo and his comments now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to address several points. The letter from Mark P. Finley Architects, AIA, the point I'd like to make is the letter deals with issues that are not before this board. They're talking about a negative impact on the area visually. That's not a ZBA issue. Negative impact allegedly on wetlands. That's a conservation issue. We have to go to conservation, but we are not in front of conservation. And traffic generation. That, again, is not a ZBA issue. That's a P&Z issue. The remaining concerns almost uniformly are either conservation or zoning issues. They are not ZBA issues. The letter from Mr. Roberts my concerns are that it does not fit into the neighborhood. The wetlands are located there. Proposed height of the structure. Height of the structure is a P&Z issue. Wetlands is a wetlands issue. Fitting into the neighborhood is a Plan and Zoning Commission issue. In terms of Attorney Crusaden's comments and memo, I'd submit that the application for a variance in the proposed design commercial district is appropriate. It's the route through the municipal process that was advised by the zoning department. It's consistent with section 25.8 of the zoning regulations, which requires applications for a change of zone to be accompanied by a special permit application for the proposal. To adopt Attorney Crusaden's thinking, we'd go to zoning, apply for a change of zone and a special permit for a building that the applicant did not wish to construct, then go back to the ZBA. That's neither logical nor reasonable. It was recommended by the zoning department, apply for a variance, then go to wetlands, then to go to the Plan and Zoning Commission for a change of zone and special permit. That's the route we're following. This application is the first step in a lengthy approval process, which will offer significant opportunities for neighborhood comment along the way. Secondly, the variance request for a reduction of the street line setback is supported in the law. The brief submitted ignores the fact there's an existing street line variance in place. In addition, it also fails to take into account the Hescock case, a 2009 appellate court case, 112 Connecticut Appellate 239, which concludes that the reduction of a nonconformity provides an independent basis for the granting of a variance. The independent basis holding means a legal hardship is not required. The fact that there's an existing variance in place for a street line setback, the fact that the proposal here reduces and that existing nonconformity supports the approval of the street line variance request. Lastly, the variance request for the reduction of parking spaces is based on existing language in the zoning regulations. The regulations permit the Plan and Zoning Commission in an application for a mixed-use building such as that proposed here to be reduced by 50%. The logic of that provision is clear and evident. Proposed businesses are unlikely to generate a parking demand at the same time as the residential uses. I can confirm, as counsel for the Trademark 1 project at the corner of Black Rock Turnpike and Commerce Drive, there are 101 apartments there. When we applied for Trademark 2, further down the street, and when we applied for the Metro Center, 356 apartments across the tracks, there was evidence presented to the commission because they have issued parking permits for the 101 apartments on Trademark 1. There's less than one parking space per unit required. The fact that the zoning regulations explicitly recognize the practical difficulty in applying parking regulations to a mixed-use building offers full support for the approval of the reduction of the required 3 spaces. There's one other item I'd like to bring up. There is some case law that suggests that the P&Z cannot grant waivers of the regulations. Comes out of Monroe case. And I don't think it's crystal clear, but there would be a decent argument that the Plan and Zoning Commission cannot grant a parking waiver because that's your jurisdiction. So that in turn is another reason we're here. You absolutely have jurisdiction over reduction in parking. You see them all the time. Under this circumstance, I think it makes perfect sense. To be clear, I submit that the record before the board offers persuasive evidence for the approval of the street line variance request, an improvement over what exists there today, and the 3-space reduction in parking, which is consistent with the relevant zoning regulation. Again, it's the first step in a long land use approval process, many opportunities for neighborhood participation along the way. For the reasons I've outlined, I request this application be approved. I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions on the rebuttal?
Just to be clear, I asked Mr. Franzen how many parking spaces were designated for the residents, and he said 6. But now you're saying only 3?
The plan and zoning, the zoning regulation for a mixed-use project permits a reduction in the parking for the residential of 50%.
Okay.
Those spaces, again, are not marked. Instead of being 6 spaces, there will be 3. That's not the case. Overall, what we're looking for is to apply that 50% reduction on the residential side because that's what the regulation permits. So instead of 24 spaces, we're proposing 21. And they'd be used by everybody.
Okay. And now, hypothetically, if it's denied today, will you still continue to go before P&Z and then return to us?
That remains to be seen. I would never make that assumption.
Any other questions on Rebel?
I have a quick question. So, with the current zoning, the design industrial, is it that same, leeway for these parking spaces? And
No, that's only for a mixed-use building. Mixed-use building requires design commercial. You can't have this use at all
So theoretically,
in design industrial. We can have industrial uses, which I don't think makes particular sense in downtown Southport.
so the logic that we really can't rule on the parking spaces because they're not allowed at all in the current zone. So there's, if there was a provision, it goes to the zoning board, and if they're not allowed to switch uses, that would invalidate that anyway.
Right, and your approval
Right.
would be of no use to the applicant, because it's clearly based on a mixed-use building. If we can't change the zone, then your approval, one hopes, becomes moot.
Any other questions for Bo? Okay, close the hearing on 95 Old Post Road.
Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Purcell. Mr. Decker, I'd like to just double check, let's pick a victim on our remote to make sure they heard us on this first hearing.
Let's do that.
Unmute someone?
Yeah.
Oh, you, Mr.
Hey, Rich?
Yeah, I could hear you.
Yep, great. Thank you very much.
Got it.
Thank you, sir.
Probably should have done that at the beginning.
Don't want to interrupt.
I was thinking that, I didn't want to either.
Attorney Fitzpatrick's usually allowed to.
Yeah.
And I know Attorney Casey, he speaks loudly as well, and Jack. So I didn't think there was any fear.
No, you're right.
So we'll continue on. General docket, first item that we have is number 1, and it is 108 Edgewood Place, map 30, parcel 114. Petition of Jody Sachs for a variance of the zoning regulation, section 5.2.5, to increase lot coverage from 20%, currently 28.1%, proposing 30.6%. Permission to construct a rear one-story addition with landing and stairs, premises A zone. And Mr. Levitt?
That's correct.
All right, is presenting. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Hello, my name is Ted Levitt. I am the local architect here and representing my client, Jody Sachs, 108 Edgewood Place. I reside at 288 Stratfield Road here in Fairfield. We present before you because we are an existing non-conforming structure. I have a diagram on 1.1 that shows our parcel and the adjacent 4 other parcels on Edgewood Place, plus another parcel on the other side, on the south side of Edgewood Place, all have the same non-conforming structure. We are in the A zone, but we really belong more in the residential B zone. We don't conform with our lot area, our square on the lot, our frontage, our front yard setback, side yard combo lots, our existing coverage, and our floor area currently. What we're doing, or what we're proposing to do, is sort of rectify a renovation done in like the late 70s. So what happened, we're keeping the same architectural program, so we are just sort of reshuffling the spaces, making the flow better, and raising the sort of ceiling height for the homeowner. So what we had done is we maintained the existing footprint in the front and side and extended an additional 30 inches into the rear yard. So you can kind of see the footprint on the site survey there. We're enclosing approximately 180 square feet of new construction. There has been some comments from our next door neighbor, which I'd like to address. First was the value and property value. That particular neighbor at 98 Edgewood Place came before this board in 2002 and gained a variance to construct a 2-story addition and going over 45% of their FAR. What we were trying to do and what was important for us is to maintain, to keep our FAR under the allotted 40%. So we're at 39.3, right underneath. So we're a single-story addition. Hopefully, you guys will see it as a minimal, there's no change when we look at it from the front, there's no change from the street, except for the roof line, and, pretty minimal. So I'm open for questions, and the homeowner's here as well for questions, but, short and sweet.
Is any questions, Mr. Levin?
Any questions?
Okay.
Sure.
Are the adjacent properties also in an A zone, or are you?
No, we're all in the A zone.
You're all-
And I have a little, renderings on 8.2, so you can see what it was before, and you can kind of see what we're proposing. If you zoom down a little bit more, Matt. So that's just it has a little bump out there on the left, and it's just a gable, couple windows and a door, and access to the street. One more, so for the neighbor at 98, their other comment was property value and also, the outdoor experience that they have in the backyard might be limited, but our sort of comment to that is that we are not proposing any glazing or any windows on that east side of the property. We are enclosing the exterior deck that would have had or could have noise implications, and that is becoming enclosed, and our exterior door is facing the driveway away from that neighbor.
Thank you, Mr. Levis. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor of the application, whether present or remotely? Not hearing anyone here or remotely. Is there anyone that wishes to oppose this application, either presently or remote? No one present. Is there anyone remote? Okay. We're going to close the hearing on 108 Edgewood Place. Thank you, Mr. Levis. Thank you. Our next item, number 2. Organize myself. And that is 448 Ruane Street, map 182, parcel 837, petition of Cardinals Construction LLC for a variance of zoning regulation section 5.2.4 to reduce the primary street line setback on a corner lot from 20 feet, currently 19.3 feet, proposing 19.3 feet, permission to construct a second floor addition with attic, premises D-zone. Mr. Cardinals, go ahead.
Hi, members of the board. My name is Dean Cardemus. I am the owner of the property. I've been from you for quite a bit. Some new faces here. I have my original and my signed petitions. I'll submit those now. I see the originals. That's one original. Thank you, everybody. Cheers. Just to keep this simple, I know you see a lot of this. This was a home that was constructed. It's in the front setback line. Ruane Street years ago was widened, which is probably one of the main reasons why it's there, but this was constructed long before they had these street setbacks. So our application, we're going to build exactly in the footprint that's there. We're going to lift the first floor up to FEMA compliance, and we're just going to put a second floor on it. Just like a new construction. The only difference would be we just want to keep the footprint as exists. And both floor area ratios are under what's allowed, and lot coverage is both under what's allowed. So, you know, a few of the neighbors had questioned height, and I said, look, you know, it's only going to get higher and bigger if we do new construction. So if you look at the floor plans, it's you know, it's pretty unique that we're not actually trying to max out the entire property here. It's just a matter of we're in the front setback. So the neighbors seem to be in support of keeping it, you know, exactly the same size as it is.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Carter? Any questions? Okay. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor of the application, 448 Ruane Street, either presently or remote? Hearing none. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in opposition to 448 through Wayne Street, whether you're here or remotely?
No.
Hearing none, we're going to close the hearing on 448 Wayne Street. Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Okay, thank you.
The next item is number 301 Palomar Drive, map 74, parcel 149. Petition of Frank M. and Lisa Cavalier for a variance of the zoning regulations, section 5.2.4, to reduce side setback from 15 feet, currently 13.2 feet, proposing 13.2 feet, and section 5.2.5 to increase the total lot coverage from 15%, currently 17.65%, proposing 20.29%. Permission to construct a rear one-story addition, premises R3 zone. Mr. Koenigsegg, I think you're presenting this remotely?
Yes, I am. Again, my name is Richard Kornitik. My company is RFK Development here in Fairfield. I am representing Frank and Lisa Cavalier regarding 301 Palomar. I came before this board, months back to get the variance for the existing new construction home that's on the property. After we started construction, the owners decided they would like to add a sun porch to the back of the house. We had the coverage included because we had our rear patio was included in our coverage. So I went back to the conservation department, and they said they would allow me to, put a structure on this. Again, but we have the same setback issues from the beginning. 13.2 from one side, and then also the total coverage. It is a non-conforming lot. It's an R3, but I only have about 12,300 square feet of space as opposed to the 20,000 needed. So that's why we're looking for this variance so we can fit this in on the property at this time. And it's a one floor room.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Koenigsegg? Go ahead, Jane.
Hi. You said you had the coverage before, but you're asking for an increase in coverage now.
Excuse me, I didn't hear that.
I said you said you had the coverage already, but now you are asking for an increase now? I'm confused.
Well, it was included in, we took out the patio that was in on the map, so there's no real patio now. It was actually larger than I think the addition that we're asking for.
Is the current patio on grade?
The current patio was going to be on grade, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Koenigsegg?
Oh, there's one more, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no?
Can you just, state your hardship?
So the building is located in an R3 zone. We currently only have, I think, 12,300 and something square feet of property. We should have 20,000. So the hardship has been that, when they developed this area, they just didn't pay attention to the zoning regulations.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Well, you're careful.
All right. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor of the application, 301 Palomar Drive, here or remote? Is there anyone in opposition that wishes to speak, here or remote? Okay, and just for the record, Mr. Koenigsegg, did you receive a copy of the email from Ms. Wong?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and it's part of our record, and Ms. Wong could not attend and submitted an email indicating that she objects. So I don't know if you wanted to comment on that. It talks about wetlands.
Again, this has all been cleared through the Wetlands Committee. They're aware of what's going on.
Okay. All right. I wanted to give you the opportunity. It's part of our record. All right.
Thank you.
Anyone else in opposition, here or remote? All right, we're going to close the hearing on 301 Palomar Drive. Thank you, Mr. Koenigsegg.
Thank you.
All Our next item is number 4, 79 Ann Street. Map 182, parcel 676, petition of Shaylin Patel for variance of the zoning regulations, section 5.2.4, to reduce the sum of 2 sideline setbacks from 15 feet currently 16.7 feet, proposing 13.4 feet. Permission to remove existing garage and construct 2 one-story additions, premises B zone. I believe the owner, oh, go ahead, sir.
My name is Shaylin Patel. I'm the owner of 79 Ann Street. I guess my grievance is just, I'm a family of 4. I have 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a garage that doesn't fit a car. So what I'm looking to do is, on the right-hand side, you have a little square that's missing. We want to put a bathroom there. And on the left, be able to go out where we can fit a car and then have a bedroom on top with another bathroom. And we're trying not to use the backyard because my neighbor actually doesn't mind us going in more his side versus his backyard being blocked by our house. So you guys actually did give me a variance for when we were doing the larger bump out in the back, but things have changed. He's one of them. And so he said if we can take a little more on the left, he'd be happy. That's what I have.
And Mr. Patel, is that the person, is that Mr. Cook?
That's Jeff. That's God, what are you talking about? The numbers are off. I can't remember, but
67, Jeff Lang.
Jeff, yeah.
67, so it's on the map, Jean Marie Lang and
Yep.
Jeffrey Cook.
Yes.
Okay, and so that's the person you spoke to.
Correct.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Patel?
I'm confused, because it says we want to construct 2 one-story additions, but the drawing shows.
So so we can only spend so much a year, I guess, because we're in the flood zone. So this is gonna be a multi-year. The first year has to, I guess they're gonna do some of the inside work. Again, I'm not the architect. He asked me to come do this, but it's a phase in. And once we get, a close or GC on one project, we have to wait 1 year and then do it again. So he said that we need to present it all at once to this board. If I'd done the one-story garage, I think it was okay, but since we are officially want to do 2 in a multi-year phase, he said to get it now.
So on your drawings, the proposed first floor plan, where's the garage?
So it's right down the left.
No, on the floor plan.
Space right here.
Yeah.
It says family room, so that's the garage?
Oh, wait, no. I flipped over, sorry. So it's actually, oh, wait, where is it?
Missing the sketch for the first floor,
That one doesn't have,
The garage is supposed to be here.
yeah.
Is that existing, or is that?
So this is the second floor, Jane,
Yeah,
on the right. They don't have it here. It's supposed to be right here.
okay,
I'm sorry, I don't know.
With an access coming in.
okay, so that's the
Yeah, this is-
existing, nothing.
Yeah, this is that 1 story on the other side of the house.
Okay, so this is the phased work, so that's the third phase?
Correct. First phase is just that section, and then they have to phase in the garage and the upstairs, because again, I can only spend, I think it's like $38,000 a year or something. That's my flood zone.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Patel?
Sorry.
All right, so you could do that. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor of this application, either here or remotely? Ann Street. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in opposition to this application? All right, thank you, Mr. Patel.
Thank you very much.
Our next item is number 5, 1460 Post Road. Map 180, parcel 246, petition of 1400 Post Road LLC for a variance of zoning regulations section 28.6.12 to reduce the required parking for outdoor dining by 9 spaces permission to establish a rooftop patio for outdoor dining, premises CDD zone. Hey, Mr. Morris?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead, sir.
What we are looking to do, given the change in dynamics of pandemic and everything like that, customers of restaurants essentially require an outdoor dining option. Based on the location of 1460 Post Road, sidewalk or parking lot seating is just, it's impossible. So what we propose to do is add a rooftop deck, which would be approximately 475 square feet of customer side. Given the existing 150 feet, that's, I guess, grandfathered is the right term, and the reduction of existing dining space due to the stairwell that we have to construct to get to the roof, our requirement would be essentially looking for an additional 4 spaces. It's 149 square feet net after the reduction of the grandfathered space and the loss of space that's already in the existing restaurant for the stairwell. The goal of, and kind of the design criteria that we're using for this is going to be very non-obtrusive. There's going to be a glass vestibule to accommodate the stairwell, which is set back off the street. There's going to be a glass railing around the outside of the building, which will be very attractive. And we think, given the dynamic of the building, the location of the building, right across the street from the park, the gazebo that's already there, it'll be a very attractive addition to that space. And given the fact we're only looking for 4 spaces of parking, I feel, our request is very reasonable. The hardship, again, is the building was constructed in the early 1900s. There's no parking. Sidewalks don't allow cafe type of seating. And the owners of the restaurant are willing to, to accommodate the changes that exist with the pandemic, the request for outdoor dining. They're willing to embark on the expense of building a rooftop deck, and that's how strongly they feel about it as a requirement for their customers. And again, our endeavor is to make it non-intrusive. It's going to be attractive. It's going to fit, kind of the architectural appeal that's in the area. And we're very conscious of any objections to, increased parking requirements, from the neighbors. So that's why we've really reduced our footprint to the smallest possible. So we feel that the impact isn't going to be that significant.
Mr. Morris, let me make this one point, because I had to make the call as how it reads on our agenda.
Yes.
But it is my understanding from some of the materials the board has received just before this, that you actually are only seeking a variance for 4 spaces.
Yes.
Okay, not 9.
Why is it not?
Just 4. That's
the stuff,
when we originally,
on the agenda as it is.
when we originally submitted the application, we didn't take into account the reduction of interior space.
So,
And that's what 4 reflects.
so you're amending the request
Yes.
here presently on the record
Yes,
for
to
4.
just 4 spaces.
Okay. I had to make that clear.
No, I probably wasn't clear myself.
No,
I
you were
apologize.
clear. I had to just do it a little bit differently just because I had to make the call saying.
Yes.
Okay, any questions? I think you have questions.
Hi, so this would be used in the warmer months, right?
Yes.
So would you block off dining spaces indoors to compensate? Or could you? Would you need those dining spaces in the warmer weather?
I don't know if that's necessarily possible.
Take away tables and chairs?
I mean, it's 150, the existing space in the restaurant for diners right now is 600 feet. We've reduced that by 176 for the stairwell and the changes to the entrances that are going to accommodate the stairwell. So if we go down another 150, that's going to essentially leave 300 feet of dining space.
How many, big chairs, how many dining?
Right now, we're 48 with the stairwell. If we reduce that, it's going to go probably into the 30s.
You're including a proposed.
No, this is just, the 48 is just interior. We haven't included anything up, we're not being that presumptive.
If you didn't get a variance for the parking and you still built upstairs, how many dining spaces would you have to take away downstairs?
I would say probably in the neighborhood of 10.
So that's a possibility.
It's absolutely a possibility. Another thing we've investigated is with adjacent properties to this restaurant, working on an arrangement or some sort of lease with parking spaces for private businesses that are adjacent to us, as an alternative. We also have access to the train station, which is relatively close. There's a municipal parking lot across the street.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions from Mr. Morris?
How many spots do you have now?
We're allocated for 600 square feet, so I guess that's 12 or so. Quick math, I'm sorry.
Mine's only a point of curiosity, because I assume you're not gonna have people using HVAC as benches.
The HVAC, there's currently 210 units on the roof of this building.
Yeah.
One's gonna remain, that's on the kitchen side, which has nothing to do with
Right.
the deck. The other one's gonna be removed, and the HVAC for the front side of the building is gonna be covered by split units.
Okay, cool,
So all that ductwork that's up there and will go away.
cool.
And the deck will be put on sleepers, so it's low to the existing grade of the roof as possible.
Okay.
Any other questions, Mr. Morris? Mr. Morris, stay there just a minute. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor of the application, whether you're present or remote? And I do know that there were submitted some, emails in favor. Is there anyone else who wants to speak? Okay. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in opposition to the matter? Attorney Green, I know you want to speak. I just want to see if there's anyone else. All right, sir? Is there anyone else? Okay. Why don't you take a seat?
Okay.
Because you're going to have an opportunity to address Attorney Green after he speaks. Go ahead, Attorney Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, staff. My name is Joel Green. I practice law in Bridgeport with the law offices of Green and Gross. It's my pleasure to appear for you this afternoon on behalf of E&F Associates, who owns the abutting property to this and shares a wall just to the west of this property. Just by way of background, and as the board is aware, there have been restaurants that have occupied the space. Most recently was Be Good. At some point before that, it was the Angel Store. But Be Good was the most recent occupant and occupied a restaurant within that space. As you probably recognize, parking is an issue in that area. And in the afternoon, the railroad spaces are largely utilized. And even in the evening, on a Friday night, for example, if the theater company is having an event, or generally speaking, that particular corner and that particular area is heavily burdened by parking. So my client is opposed to the proposed variances because there is already a parking issue, and this just can't help at all. And I would suggest that initially, if you look at the drawings, in particular the site plan, there appear to be a number of inconsistencies in the drawings, and they may or may not be affecting the application. But I note that in terms of, for example, the lot area that's shown is 600 feet less than the assessor shows for the lot. For example, the town shows the building area with a floor area on the ground for the building, the combined buildings there, as 2,346 feet. And the site plan submitted by the applicant shows less than that. The applicant fails to offer any of the data from the zoning regulations regarding setbacks. There is, in fact, a front setback. There is a rear setback in the downtown commercial district under our zoning regulations, and they are 10 feet at the front, 10 feet at the back, and there are also side yard setbacks, but much of that is not shown. But I don't even want to spend a lot of time, but another major inaccuracy seems to be that there's no patron floor area attributed to the area between the so-called vestibule and this deck area. The applicant shows the deck area is 475 feet. It's not apparent to me from the drawings, the calculation that the applicant is talking about that reduces the number of spaces down to 4. And that really should be something that is included in their drawings, but it's not. But one thing's for sure is they don't show any patron floor area attributable to the vestibule or to the area of travel between the vestibule and this so-called deck. Another problem, which is sort of tangential, but I note that our zoning regulations require compliance with all applicable laws, rules, and regulations, is it doesn't appear that the second floor facility is ADA compliant. I don't see that there's an elevator, for example, to allow access for Americans with disabilities to the roof deck. But the real main feature of this application is that there is absolutely no hardship in this instance. And there is no unique condition that affects this property. I note in the applicant's application that they refer to COVID and providing a dining option for people who want to eat outside, but that is not anything that is unique to this property, and the law requires that the hardship or the condition that justifies this board exercising its extraordinary jurisdiction and granting a variance requires that there be a hardship unique to this property. In this case, the property can and has been operated for several permitted uses in the downtown commercial district, and we've all seen that. So there's nothing about this property that prohibits it from being used, and it has economic value. And interestingly, the authority that I will cite is the case of E&F Associates versus Zoning Board of Appeals. I have provided the board with a copy of that opinion, and that opinion is directly and squarely on point and is a Supreme Court decision that addresses this specific property. And the same authority and the same reasoning and the same law that is cited by the Supreme Court in E&F is exactly dead on point in this case. And the Supreme Court points out that all of the conditions that the applicant has mentioned and all the characteristics of the property do not justify the granting of a variance in this case, because none of those conditions, when considered in the light of the zoning regulations, act in a manner to confiscate this property or to render it as not having economic value. To the contrary, and once again, the property has economic value, and there simply is no basis for a variance to be granted. There is no hardship. And I'm not going to, in terms of sort of some of the other aspects on the drawings and some of the missing information and even other regulations that I think come into play. And I think there's also an issue with the way the vestibule is positioned and the height of the vestibule, but I'm not even going to take up the board's time because there simply is no basis for a hardship to be found. And as the Supreme Court found in that case, there's just no basis for this board to grant a variance. So I urge the board to deny the application. And I want to thank you for your time and attention this afternoon.
Thank you, Attorney Green. Is there any questions for Attorney Green? Okay. All right, just to make sure, is there anyone else that wishes to speak in opposition to this matter, 1460 Post Road? Mr. Morris, you do have an opportunity to address those comments by Attorney Green.
I guess the first question is if there's any variation in square footage. There's a basement to this building that's not reflected on the site plan for the survey, because I don't think that's probably necessary. The other question, the other issue, and probably the most salient point, is regarding hardship. It's kind of difficult not to call COVID a hardship to the restaurant industry. It's been devastating. It was probably one of the major causes for Be Good going out of business. What the owners of Pelicano are trying to do right now is flex to the change in situation. This building precludes any outdoor dining. And to survive in the current environment, nobody here knows how long this current environment's going to last. There's new surges coming, so we have to assume it's going to go on for another period of time. It's necessary to have outdoor dining. The second part is the utility of this deck is going to be after 5 p.m., where the train station, municipal parking lot, and other adjacent lots are going to be free. So we don't feel that asking for 4 spaces after 5 o'clock is going to dramatically impact negatively anybody. Regarding the layout of the deck, there's a lot of space that's up there that's going to be access routes, service stations, different things like that to service the deck that are not included in the 475-foot calculation. The 475 as depicted is the space that's going to be the customer side for customer use and nothing else. We haven't got to that level of detail yet because we wanted to get past this step. But I think the key thing is, I believe COVID is a hardship, and especially in the restaurant industry.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Any questions for Mr. Morris on the rebuttal? All right.
Thank you.
We're going to close the hearing on 1460 Post Road. Thank you, sir. Our next item is number 6, 45 Fields Rock Road, map 226, parcel 13, petition of Lisa Ducey for variance of zoning regulations, section 5.2.4, to reduce the street line setback from 50 feet, currently 24.5 feet, proposing 26 feet. Permission to raise the eave line to create adequate height for a bathroom remodel, premises AA zone. And, Ms. Batchelder?
Yes, I'm Linda Batchelder from Baker Batchelder Architects, and the Duceys are here remotely. What we're looking to do is to create full headroom over the vanity area. Right now, it's at about 4.5 feet, and so we are not increasing the footprint of the building, and we're not increasing the ridge height, but we are increasing the eave height in this location. What we are proposing is that we bring the eave height up to the existing eave height on the main portion of the house. Our hardship is that this portion of the house, and really the whole front of the house, sits within the street setback. So any work we do that enlarges this portion of the house in any way, and will require a variance. So from the street side, we're maintaining the existing gable shape by holding back our new lower pitched roof, because it's lower pitched because we're only raising the eave and not the ridge, so that there's a slight offset, and the existing character of that low pitched gable will remain.
All right. Is that any questions from Ms. Batchelder? Questions?
Question.
Yes.
But just to clarify, so it looks like if you're currently 24.5 feet, and you're proposing 26.
Mm-hmm. That is because we are not working on the 24 foot to the 26.
Okay.
So that remains the same. So our new proposal starts at the 26-foot mark.
Got it.
We need the variance because we're changing everything.
It's all within the setback, but we're not changing the whole thing.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, great, thanks.
Any other questions? All right. No other questions? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this application, 45 Fields Rock Road?
And might I ask,
Sure.
Paul Ducey is on the screen, and I'm not sure if there's anything I left out that he would like to include.
Mr. Ducey, let us unmute you first. Mr. Ducey, anything to add?
Oh, if I was there, you'd see that I'm tall. We need a few more feet for my head to fit in the bed.
From someone under 6 feet, that's not a hardship being tall, okay?
I believe he's about 6'4", and the room right now is 4'6".
That would be, scream for me. Okay.
Thank you.
Is there, anyone else in favor? Okay. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in opposition to this application, 45 Field Rock Road? Thank you, Mr. Bishop.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item, is 168 Willow Street, map 241, parcel 158A is an apple, petition of 168 Willow Street LLC for variance of the zoning regulations 5.1.5A to allow an accessory structure on a parcel that does not have a primary dwelling premises to remove and rebuild a barn premises R3. Attorney Fallon, go ahead.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. For the record, my name is John Fallon. I'm here representing the applicant. A brief moment, March 3rd, 2020. The last time I stood before you. It feels a little different. I'm glad to be back. I'm not used to making presentations with long pants and shoes and socks, but I'll see what I can do here. But seriously, thank you all for what you've done over the last 2.5 years to keep the process moving for everybody. It's not been easy, and your dedication is really appreciated. So, 168 Willow Street is the owner of the property located at 168 Willow Street. That parcel is a long-standing existing parcel. It does not have, nor has it had, that I'm aware of ever, a residence on it. But it has had, for many, many decades, a barn, which is shown on our plans. That was located there. The barn is not in good shape, and my client is the beneficial owner as well of 171 Old South Road, which is owned by 171 Old South Road. It's immediately adjacent, and he purchased that property recently. What he would like to do, Mr. Ryan being the client, is simply to construct a new barn, as shown on the plans, and Jack will briefly walk you through those, to be used on the property at 168 Willow Street, strictly in conjunction with the enjoyment of his family and property adjacent at 171. So it's a very technical variance. I'll talk about that in a second. But before I do, I would just ask Jack just to give you a brief overview with regard to the proposal.
Just go to that.
Good afternoon, I'm Jack Franson, 95 Harbor Road in Southport, representing Fred Ryan on this application. We're planning to construct a new accessory barn at 168 Willow Street. It will replace an existing smaller barn that's currently on the parcel. The proposed barn will be a 3-bay post and beam wood structure with a salt box roof line measuring 34 feet by 36 feet. It will also have a 12-foot deep open lean-to on the north side. The height to the midpoint of the roof will be 17.5 feet. Its placement in the southwest corner of the property will conform to the R3 accessory setbacks for structures over 15 feet in height. The barn will be manufactured in kit form by Country Carpenters. We were able to customize it a little bit with windows and roof lines, but it's a kit, basically comes to the site knocked down and is assembled on a foundation that we provide. They specialize in that type of structure. There will be no habitable space, no sanitary facilities, no conditioned space. The building will be used for storage of vehicles and other storage. So it is truly an accessory barn.
Thank you, Jack. Yeah, I want to emphasize that there's no request, these plans, for any kind of habitability. There's no plumbing, whatever. It is a barn, just like the barn that's been there for many decades is. What brings us here is section 5.1.5A, which provides that an accessory structure such as this barn is a permitted use in the residence district. Subsection A does provide that the accessory use should be located on the same lot with the permitted use to which it is accessory. Interestingly enough, about 3 or 4 years ago, Westport, just a matter of background, did do away with a similar provision. And they basically said you could have an accessory structure like a pool house or a gazebo, even if it was on a technical lot that didn't have a residence on it. But we don't have that, so we're asking you for that variance, because what we want to do, as I said before, is to construct this new barn at the location shown, replacing the current old barn that's been there for many, many decades. We think this is going to improve the aesthetics and functionality and even the safety, if you will. So with regard to the variance itself, look to section 8-6A3. You need to make two findings, as you know. One, what we are proposing would not substantially affect the comprehensive plan. And number two, that there is elements of facts which establish legal hardship sufficient for the granting of the variance. With regard to the first part of the test, there's not going to be any negative substantial effect on the comprehensive plan, in that there's already been a barn on this property for many, many years, and in fact, such barns, as I said before, are generally permitted in the zone. What we're looking to do here, as I said, is to replace a barn that has been here for many, many years. We have spoken to our neighbors. I apologize for not submitting this electronically, but I just got it this afternoon. And if it's okay, I'll pass it down. We have as you look at this, the approval of all of our abutting neighbors. The only signature line that when you look, you'll see is not filled out is Harriet Wiswell. Ms. Wiswell is a hardy 97 years old, and she is aware of this application. In fact, her son, Mr. Wiswell, is here seated in the front row. Not only are they aware of the application, but Mr. Ryan and Mr. Wiswell have made arrangements so that the barn could be demolished, or its components we're going to give to the Wiswells pursuant to their request, because they want to utilize that barn and whatever. So the bottom line is all of our neighbors are aware of this. All of them are aware that this is a barn, a classic barn, and we're simply replacing it. With regard to the hardship requirement, this is a situation where the regulation that we're talking about here and its application involving this long-standing parcel, which has had a barn on it for so many years, does create a unique situation where on a barn, which has been established as a legally protected non-conforming use pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 8-2, and having been located on the property for so very long, could not really be replaced but for the variance that we asked you for. And in light of that fact and the fact that it will be used strictly as a barn in conjunction with the property at 171 Old South Road, which is immediately adjacent, the application of the specific regulation we ask you to grant relief from is reasonable and I think satisfies the hardship standard, in that we are only asking not to create an accessory structure, but to replace one that has long been on this property. So, by way of summary, going to allow us to continue the use of this parcel for purposes of a barn. The barn is beautifully designed. It will have a pleasant aesthetic impact on the area. The neighbors are all aware of it and are supportive of our application. And it will not in any way change the historic use of the property from what it has been for many, many decades, which is a parcel with a barn on it. So that's the elements of the application, and we'd be pleased to answer any questions that you might have with regard to it.
Any questions for the No? Yes, go ahead, Jan.
Okay, so there's an existing barn.
Correct.
It's been there for many years.
Decades and decades.
What was in that barn for many years? Animals?
It's been there, when I say decades, it's probably been there since, I don't want to say the late 19th, it's been there since the 1800s, so I could only speculate, old as I am getting, but
They were onion barns.
I think, pardon?
They were onion barns.
Yeah, I think probably onion,
Okay, but just,
it was used as a barn for storage of,
right, so but what you're replacing with is a garage.
no, it's a barn. It's going to be used, there'll be the ability to park equipment there from time to time, but basically, it's not set up as a garage per se. 171 has its own garage.
Yeah.
It'll be used as a barn, and its aesthetic and architectural design, I think, is in keeping with. In fact, it is been designed with Jack Self by a company that specializes in barns. So it's a barn. But that's really the relevant issue here is having any kind of an accessory structure on the property when there's no principal residence. It will be a barn, and by the way, as Jack pointed out, we are complying with all of R3 regulations as it relates to setbacks and the like, which would pertain to an accessory structure.
So why not just combine the two lots?
Well, they're separate parcels, they're separate tax parcels, and I think at this point in time, just as a matter of prudence, the owner does not wish to do that. Probably it's better for the town if he doesn't as well, in terms of tax revenue, although that's not particularly relevant. But I think the lot has stood as a separate tax parcel for many, many years, and we'd like to maintain that integrity.
Okay, and then lastly, the access way,
Mm-hmm.
that exists now?
Correct, unchanged.
And is an asphalt drive there now, or no? It's just a,
I think it's just a pervious drive area, and we don't plan on changing that.
okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor of the application, 168 Willow Street? Is there anyone that wishes to speak in opposition to the application, 168 Willow Street? All right, there you go.
Thank
you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Next item is number 8, 552 Naps Highway, map 42, parcel 649. Petition of Michael Carafos, for variance of zoning regulations, section 5.2.4, to reduce the rear and 2 sideline setbacks from 30 feet and 15 feet, currently 3.25 feet, 3.75 feet, and 5.4 feet, proposing 3.25 feet, 3.75 feet, and 5.1 feet, and section 5.2.5 to increase the total lot coverage and total floor area from 15% and 30%, currently 13.2% and 17.2%, proposing 19.28% and 33.04%, permission to construct 2-story and second floor additions with open covered porch. Go ahead, sir.
Sure, good afternoon. I'm here today requesting a variance. As you can see the property there, currently it's sort of a 1.5-story cottage, and it's really uninhabitable for even a family of 2, considering its current size. It does not conform with the setbacks. Currently, it was built in the 1920s, and what I'm requesting is to build a proper second-story usable addition, and that would bring me to the left side, I believe 11.2 feet, as you can see in the gray area there, and it's fairly close, I believe, to the neighbor's side there. And I was able to get signatures from all of my neighbors but one, and he's here today, and I have that here. I don't have copies, though. I just have one.
We'll go, and then we'll give it to Jody. Just give us your name.
Michael Karafotis.
I said it, but you need it.
Yes, sir.
I pronounced it wrong. Sorry.
Okay. It's hard to pronounce. And, you know, the hardship is simply that the home is uninhabitable. It's currently a 1-bedroom, very low ceilings. Even 2 people would have difficulties living in the existing space. And it's a nice property. It's right in front of an elementary school, and, you know, it should be usable. And we're just looking to put usable space there and use the property.
All right. Board have any questions, Mr. Carafone? Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor of the application? Is there anyone in opposition to the application? Okay, let me just see if there's anyone else. Is there anyone in opposition remotely?
No.
Okay. All right, you can take a seat, and go ahead, sir, give us your name.
Hi.
Address.
I'm Scott Massey, 560 Naps Highway, Michael's neighbor.
Go ahead.
And I'm in opposition to the reduction of the sideline. The sideline right now is approximately 15 feet They're looking to reduce it down to 3'9". And in the two-story, addition at that close proximity, I'm not comfortable and not happy about that. It would significantly reduce the view from our home, 25 to 30%. So, that being said, I like what he's trying to do. I just don't particularly like the idea of the garage being on the side, going that close to our property line. That being said, also, I believe that all of their objectives could still be met by repositioning the garage to the front of the house instead of on the side. So that he'd still have the extra space, he'd have the garage, he'd have the second floor capability, and I would have the setback remaining about the same as it is right now.
All right, and you're, as we're looking at it from that side, you're on the left, correct, sir?
I am.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right. Yes, you, come on up, yes, absolutely.
I just want to state for the record, the adjacent property is not next to this garage or home. It's set back about 10 or 15 feet. The property itself would be next to his driveway. The neighbor has a double lot, and the front is all land and a driveway, and his home is behind my house. It's not even next to it at all whatsoever. So I understand, the complaint, but I just wanted to specify that. It's not really next door, it's set back his property on the left side, not next door. I just wanted to state that for the record.
All right.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just clarify for the reading and for my own sense. The application being requested, the existing condition is 3.25 feet, 3.75 feet, and 5.4 feet, correct? Not 15 feet.
Yes, that's why they need the variance.
Right. I wanted to make sure we weren't going from 15 feet to 5 points. Okay. That's what I thought.
Yeah, and just to clarify, the property on the right side of it is actually, and the rear is town-owned property. It's a McKinley Elementary School property, and we did toy around with the garage to the right to avoid all this, but with the traffic, it's a very heavy traffic area, and the layout, it's just impossible. It was somewhat impossible to do that, and this was kind of the. It's a tiny addition. We tried to keep it as minimal as possible. It's a small property, and this to us was the best that we could do.
So, am I reading this correctly that the only thing that really is changing is you're reducing the setback by 0.3?
No, the only thing that's changing is, so you have a current structure. It's 1.5 stories.
Right.
I fit up there, but it's really small. So we're making it a true 2-story on the existing structure. The only addition is to the left is an 11-foot new structure, which is be a garage and a bedroom above that. And that's kind of what the neighbors, upset about, that extra part to the left there.
But as far as I understand that, as far as the setback,
Yes.
it's only you're only asking to reduce it from what's there now?
On 11?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
0.3. Because if you're going from 5.4.
Yeah, it's about a 4-inch difference.
Yeah. Am I there?
Yeah.
That may be inaccurate, because if you look at the diagram up there, okay, see the gray parts? Those are the new parts. So from the existing structure over, we measured it. It's, I believe, 11 feet. So from his property line, it's about 5 feet. I have to survey here, I'll double check it.
It's looking at the setback.
Okay.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there any rebuttal?
No rebuttal, that's technically a sir reply, but there's no, rebuttal to a rebuttal. All right, closing the hearing on 552 Naps Highway, we'll take that up later. Thank you, sir, thank you. And number 990 Mill Hill Terrace, map 243, parcel 227, petition of Brian Allison Bloom for variance of the zoning regulations, section 5.2.4 to reduce both sideline setbacks from 15 feet, currently 8.9 feet and 12.8 feet, proposing 6.7 feet and 11 feet, permission to construct a rear, one and two-story addition and relocate vehicle door premises R3 zone. Ms. Bloom?
Thank you all. I'm Brian Flume, my wife Allison Flume. We're the owners of 990 Mill Hill Terrace. We've been there for about 8 years now, and what we're trying to do is add on to the back of the house to a family room. And in addition to that family room, expand out the second floor. And you can see in the drawings, the house is very unusual from a hardship perspective. It was originally built in 1890, so it's a very thin plot of land. It's a half acre of land, and the amount of space that we occupy is about 1,800 square feet. And all of our neighbors are very supportive of it. They all have expressed the full support of it, and yeah, thank you for your consideration.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Plume? Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor of the application? Is there anyone in opposition to the application? This is 990 Mill Hill Terrace. Hearing no one? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
The hearing on 990 Mill Hill Terrace. Number 10, 44 Wakeman Road, map 141, parcel 121, petition of Trinity Baptist Church for a variance of the zoning regulations, section 5.2.4, to reduce the streetlight setback from 30 feet, currently 18.8 feet, proposing 18.8 feet. Permission to construct a third floor addition premises, a zone. Garofalo?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
My name is Skip Garofalo. Good evening. I'm representing Trinity Baptist Church. I'm one of the members of the church, and hopefully running the project that'll happen on our pastor's residence. So we have a structure that was built in 1849, built very close to the front property line. It's not the road at that point. The town has another 70 feet of kind of a park right in front of the property. So really the property is quite a distance from the road. We're just trying to increase the size of the house. Right now it's about 1,500 square feet. Pastor has 3 children, it's a family of 5, and just trying to get, raise the ridge a bit, put a shed dormer in the back of the house, so it's gonna go from 2 stories to 2.5 stories. The front of the property will remain relatively unchanged, just more roof line that you'll see in the front of the house, because the ridge will be slightly higher, about 40 inches higher, and then a shed dormer in the back of the house. We're trying to have as little impact as possible. We're trying to do it as economically as possible. We're not changing the footprint of the property, just going up off the existing foundation.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Garofalo? Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor of the application? Is there anyone that wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Thank you, sir. We're going to close the hearing on 44 Wakeman Road. We'll take that up shortly. The last item on our agenda is number 12, which is 888 Oakdale Road. That was continued. Our last item is number 11, 112 Lally Boulevard. This is map 182, parcel 42, petition of Wood End Development LLC for a variance of zoning regulations, section 5.2.5, to increase the total lot coverage from 20%, proposing 20.3%, permission to legitimize a construction error, premises, a a zone. Attorney Fitzpatrick?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for the record, my name is Bill Fitzpatrick, an attorney in Fairfield with the law firm of Fitzpatrick, Frame, Bologna. I'm here this afternoon representing Wood End Development LLC, the owner of a newly constructed single-family home on property at 112 Lally Boulevard. Applicant here purchased the property, has constructed a new home on the property. New home has been completed, under contract to be sold with a sales date later this month. Property at 112 Lally Boulevard is located in the Residence A zone, contains 10,800 square feet. In conjunction with an application for a building permit for the new home from the town of Fairfield, the applicant submitted a detailed site plan. The new home was required to be raised due to its location in FEMA flood zone AE. The existing average grade of the property is 8.7 feet. First floor elevation is 19.5 feet. The site plan included, among other things, a new home outline or footprint, as well as 2 decks and stairs required to reach the first floor elevation. And the new home was completed. An as-built plot plan was prepared by the surveyor as required for the issuance of the CO, Certificate of Occupancy. The issuance of a Certificate of Occupancy by the town is a prerequisite to the sale of the property. The as-built survey determined that the coverage on site was 20.3%, when 20% is the maximum permitted coverage in the Residence A district pursuant to Section 5.2.5 of the zoning regulations. Therefore, the applicant's before you today requesting a variance of Section 5.2.5 to permit an increase in coverage from the permitted 20% to the existing 20.3% in conjunction with the completed construction of a single-family home. As you've heard from me in the past, the legal test for the granting of a variance is set forth in the DuPont case, 80 Connecticut Appellate 327, 2003 case, which states, regarding hardship under General Statute Section 8-6, parents C and parents, a local zoning board may grant the variance where 2 basic conditions are met. 1, the variance is shown not to affect substantially the comprehensive zoning plan, and 2, adherence to the strict letter of the zoning regulations is shown to cause unusual hardship unnecessary to the carrying out of the general purpose of the zoning plan. First part of the test, no substantial effect on the comprehensive plan is satisfied here where the proposed use, single-family home, is a permitted use in the Residence A district. Second part of the test, adherence to the strict letter of the zoning regulations, shown to cause unusual hardship unnecessary to the carrying out of the general purpose of the zoning plan is satisfied here, I would submit, by several factors. At the time the overage in coverage of 0.3% was uncovered, the building plans submitted as part of the building permit process at the start of construction were compared to the as-built plot plan prepared at the completion of construction. The new home outline for the building permit and the new home as-built outline are identical. The A2 survey submitted as part of this application confirms that the as-built floor area ratio of 37.3%, what has been built on this property, matches the proposed floor area ratio of 37.3%. My point is that no additional interior living space has been constructed on site. The overage is simply the square footage attributable to the stairs in the front and the rear of the new home. The coverage overage is 0.3%, or approximately 33 square feet. The square footage of the front and rear stairs to the elevated first floor was miscalculated. The new home conforms to the relevant zoning regulations in all other material respects. Building setbacks, building height, floor area ratio, all conform. The error was not discovered until the as-built plot plan was prepared, as I say, as part of the CO process. This variance request is de minimis, 33 square feet, was unintentional, clearly due to an honest mistake by a third party in the calculation of the square footage for the stairs. Again, no increase in the habitable area of the home. The commission has a petition in hand signed by the 2 neighbors on both the right and left. Approval permits the issuance of a CO for this property and its sale to contract purchasers who are anxious to purchase. Given the size of the coverage variance request, 0.3%, the nature of the additional 33 square feet of building on site, simply stairs, and the clearly unintentional nature, I'd request this application be approved. Mr. Kyle Permender, a partner in the application entity, and the general contractor is here with me, and he and I would be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions on Lally Boulevard? Hearing no questions, is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Is there anyone in opposition to Lally Boulevard? All right, hearing none, we're gonna close the hearing on 112 Lally Boulevard. Thank you, Senator Patrick. Thank you. We'll take a 10-minute break. We'll be right back. People that are remote, 10 minutes, and we'll be discussing. Call back to order, Town of Fairfield Zoning Board of Appeals, a working session. We're gonna be voting now. I'll take up the matters in order. I'm gonna read the ones that were withdrawn and continued, just for the record. Continued docket number 7, 250 Peacock Avenue has been withdrawn. Continued docket number 3, 1386 Hillside Road has been continued to June. This continued docket number 4 is our first matter for business. This is 95 Old Post Road. Attorney Fitzpatrick presented this, and it's to construct the 3-story mixed-use building. We also heard from Attorney Fitzpatrick as well on that, and Mr. Francis. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Brian, is there a second?
Second.
Carried. All right, discussion.
Well, my understanding is, just from my cursory understanding anyway, is that the things they're asking for are within our purview. And from what they are asking, should anything that we approve, should it be approved, and I'm in favor. If TPZ fails to grant, all is rendered moot. That a basic understanding.
Yeah.
So I'm in favor.
But if we say yes, and it goes to PPZ, and they say yes with all these conditions, changes, and back to us, then would it come back to us again to review? Yes or different, and then we set today?
I couldn't anticipate such a situation because TP&Z would be sending something that they want to violate their own regulations and ask for, they would say, no, we're gonna approve this, but it goes against their own regulations. What it's gonna go back to saying, they don't have the power to vary their own regulations.
Right.
And one of the regulations that they do have is the ability, they give them the ability to reduce the parking, the overall parking when they have this mixed use, because there is overlapping use. But they don't have the ability to say, oh, we're reducing this parking regulation, or waiving, or varying that parking regulation. And I couldn't see them say, well, I want you to pump it out here, so you are, you're closer, you're further.
So that would, yeah, so it should change. So, but if it's not, if it's in the industrial zone now, everything we're commenting on is a hypothetical, not, I mean, the application is, if perhaps it is legal. So why do we spend our time doing that at all? Why don't we just wait and see? Like, tonight was, you know, million dollars over the sale. See what happens. Do we have the ability to?
I think we have the ability to do this, and that's what the town department suggests, is to see if the zoning, there's gonna be a variance, because P&Z cannot vary their own regulations. They're gonna have looking at, they're looking at other aspects
Right, I just don't understand the sequence.
And P&Z may say, go to ZBA.
Yeah.
Right. So are we basically, the way I'm taking this is we're basically making decisions, presuming that the answer is going to be a yes from the zoning board, And if they say no, then it's a moot point anyway. They're kind of checking the box before they go through the whole rigmarole.
If they want any of the variances for this particular property, assuming that it does go into the zone that they want, they need these variances.
And if we approve this, and the variance is granted, that variance is forever, even if it's a different application, different.
Well, they wouldn't be able to have a mixed use because the zone wouldn't allow it.
Right.
So that variance would be annulled.
You can't
Unless
restart the
you change, you don't see change the zone.
No, but this application is, just thinking down the line.
Yeah,
It's
no.
go forever. So if we.
Setback's gonna go forever no matter what.
Right, and parking goes forever, no matter what.
Parking, well, depends on what the structure is,
Yeah.
whether it's parking requirement.
Yeah.
Because that,
As long as the condition of the building doesn't change, the parking wouldn't change.
I think I asked that question.
Mhm.
And if you remain design industrial district, then we wouldn't have the power to reduce by 50%. That's what I,
Yeah, because it's,
which would mean,
just for the.
right, which would mean it would be a moot point anyway, because they don't change the zone, and we can't agree to this.
So, but what, okay, so if we say yes,
well, the 28.8 only relates to the multiple uses.
right, but so if we grant this variance and it goes to P&Z, and they deny it, and the applicant withdraws, and another applicant comes along and says, oh, there's already a variance for us to do such and such.
There's a variance for a setback, but I don't think unless they can put it to a mixed use, that the variance for parking would apply, because it's not a mixed use. 28.8 is limited to mixed
So
use,
it's all or nothing, the variance is all or nothing.
except for a setback.
But in the setback, they're like re-inspected, they're actually reducing the non-conformity.
Correct.
Yes. So, parking variance, assuming that happens, my thought is, ooh, it's gone.
Right.
Because the parking area, variance for anticipated mixed use. Which if it's not allowed, then it would come into play.
Understand, thank you.
Any other discussion? No. Bring it to a vote, Brian?
Yes.
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 Say yes, been granted. General docket number 108 Edgewood Place. Mr. Levis presented this, and this is to construct a rear one-story addition with landing and stairs. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Right, is there a second?
Jane second.
Okay. And let's have some discussion.
I think it's a reasonable request.
You have a 2/3 of the required size.
Yeah.
2/3 of the required square. And it fits with lot coverage.
Yeah.
No, it's carefully designed for the setbacks and everything.
All right, bring the vote, Brian?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Passes. Number 2, 448 Ruane Street, Cardigan's Construction. Mr. Cardigan's presented this. It's to construct a second-story addition with attic. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Brian, is there a second? And discussion?
I think it's a reasonable request. He's effectively just putting a second story on top of an existing structure and makes more effective use of the property.
It's not increasing. any
No.
conformity.
Yeah.
All right, bring to a vote, Brian?
Yep.
Yes.
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 I say yes.
Yes.
Number 3, 301 Palmer Drive. Mr. Trinitic presented this for the Cavaliers. It's to construct rear one-story addition. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Brian, is there a second? Second. All right, Terry, you do that one, Terry? Just barely got it. And let's have discussion.
think it's a reasonable request. I love saying the same thing every time. We tend to make reasonable requests in this town. There's really nothing to object over that I can see.
I don't think it has any effect on the neighborhood or streetscape or anything.
Not in that neighborhood. I mean, the neighborhood did have a tremendous amount of large houses that came into it not too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, a long time ago, my kids were older, when it was what's called Purple Playground in Elmar. And, but this is reasonable, it's a little scaled back. All right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, yes. All right, number 479 Ann Street. Mr. Patel presented his own application. He wants to remove existing garage and then construct two one-story additions. Remember, we have phase A, phase B. Okay, so, all right, let's have a, motion to approve.
So moved.
All right, is there a second?
Jane seconds.
Thank you, Jane. And discussion.
Can I talk to, ask Mr. Decker a question?
Yeah.
Regarding phasing work in a flood zone? Yes?
Sure.
Yeah.
So currently, the regulation is if you wait 366 days, then you can do more work.
From the date the CO is signed.
And do you anticipate that being like that in the future? Or do you anticipate
I
change
try not
in
to
that?
predict the future. Anything can change.
So if we approve this, knowing it's a plan, you know, we're approving something that's more that they can build right now, and regulations change, this doesn't carry forward because it's been approved. It still has to go through building and.
Well, they have to abide by the FEMA guideline
At the
requirements,
time.
yeah.
Okay.
You're approving the addition, doesn't mean he's gonna build it or not.
Right.
That doesn't get them to fly on the
Okay.
radar.
Yeah.
That's what I want to make sure.
This isn't affected by the
Yeah.
6-month rule, right? Or whatever is that? Work has to be completed.
That's what we're just talking
Well,
about.
you pull a permit, you have 6 months to start, 12 months to finish. If you need a little longer to finish, you just submit a letter, requesting additional time.
Yeah.
That's irrelevant to the time frame for the FEMA guidelines, because once you get your CO, whether it's a day or 2 years after you start, your clock doesn't start until you get that CO.
So you get the CO.
Correct.
Perfect.
Yeah, and they're asking for like 2 feet and stuff like that. And they're well, I mean, they're also well under coverage and they are.
Yeah. Notwithstanding its confusion, it's a very reasonable request. Yes.
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 Say yes, that's granted. Number 5, 1460 Post Road, Mr. Moore presented the application, 1460 Post Road LLC. This is for established rooftop patio, they need a parking variance. The call was for 9, but when they did the recalculation and removing some patron floor space on the first floor for, and allocating that to what's gonna be the stair, going upstairs, they only need 4, and that was amended by Mr. Morris during his application. So, motion to approve the request for waiver of 4 spaces.
So moved. Do you need me to state the full request?
No.
Okay.
And second? Second. Jane, you got that one, you said it a little fast, but very. All right, discussion, remember we heard from Attorney Green on this one as well.
I think, go ahead, Jane.
I think there's a little bit of a, out in the manger, response by the person that Attorney Green was representing, because I guess they had an application and they had to go to the committee, affected by the rules, but nevertheless, if this is granted, it goes with the property debt, so once it's no longer an Italian restaurant, it could be anything. It could be a sports bar, it could be any kind of restaurant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, be careful what you wish for, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and just a comment, I mean, I don't know, who sat on the board when the original phase case? I did. And it was, the issue there was setback, because they wanted to build the case with the Supreme Court. I'm not giving legal advice on it, but the case addresses the issue of setback. Because they wanted to build a second floor.
Right, and that was like 10 feet.
It wouldn't be zero.
Right,
Yeah,
but if you're occupying that first 10 feet, you're not building there, but you're occupying it in the setback, I think that's like other restaurants having sidewalks.
Yes, and
It comes comparable to that.
correct, and this is a little bit unique. They don't, in our zoning regs,
Right.
allow, they give you forgiveness for the first 150 feet of outdoor dining space. This one doesn't have that opportunity, and this one has no usable land for parking space. I appreciate that Attorney Green brought up the old case, but just like we can't use our granting of variances in other cases as a condition of precedent, doesn't mean that, and we granted that was appealed, so the issue of a different variance that was determined by the court was a different variance. The property is, in my opinion, somewhat unique. It has literally no parking, and the sidewalk, the way it's configured on a corner lot, on a corner piece, doesn't allow for outdoor dining when all the other restaurants, if not all, 99% of the other restaurants have that ability, which is allowed in our zone.
I think
It's allowed in our regulations.
I think it reasonably solves an existing problem for that specific space, which could allow it to have longer tenure, if nothing else.
What's interesting about the specific space is a lot of restaurants are failing.
That's what I'm saying. I think it could actually solve the issue of a failing location in the
So
town.
the economic use, the old coffee shops, they had to move, couldn't make it. Another restaurant, fast food, failed. The most recent one, failed. I think that's pretty compelling and evidence of.
This is just a question, so the 4 parking spaces are based on square footage of dining area, not numbers of chairs.
Patron floor area, yes, that's how they calculate it, okay?
And so the number of chairs and tables is determined by fire regulations, so they can't, so there's a limit anyway, how many tables they can pack in there.
There might be a limit.
It's number of,
Like, again,
it's number of tables per square, number of tables and chairs per square foot,
But
yeah.
our parking regulations are the patron floor area, so
Right.
if you're not gonna be having patron floor area on that upper level,
Yeah,
it's patron floor area.
yeah,
It's not the service, it's not
right,
that, the bar behind the bar, it's not the kitchen.
right. So how do you enforce that when it's all there?
What do you mean?
When it's occupied? Does Mr. Decker go up and make sure that, there's a line drawn and you can't have patron floor area over this?
I think if we get complaints about that they have too many people up there because they're putting tables in areas that they're not supposed to have tables,
Or,
Capacity relative to pounds per square foot tolerance or sheer square footage?
Asking questions. Thank you.
Fire marshal.
I don't know if Mrs. Decker gets complaints about parking downtown
No.
for restaurant use.
No.
And that's what we're
Thinking it
talking
through,
about.
because again, this stays with the property,
I think,
so you be careful what you wish
I think the property needs some relief.
for.
Yeah,
Yes, agreed.
All right?
hell yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Number 6, 45 Fields Rock Road, the Ducey's, dispatch shelter, presented it, and it's, the headroom on the bathroom. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Terry. All right, discussion?
I think I have to approve this as a person under a certain height, otherwise I'll be accused of a height prejudice. I think the work there.
Usually works the other way.
Yeah, usually works the other way. I think what they're asking for is reasonable. I think they're working within what they have to work with, and, it's not gonna have any deleterious effect on the area whatsoever.
It wouldn't be an issue, but for the house was built 24 feet from
Right.
the road, the entire, I think almost the entire house is within 50 feet.
Like on that line, yeah.
So what, any addition that they did, they
Yeah.
need a variance.
Yeah.
They could be on the back end of that.
Yeah,
It's reducing non-conformity.
by a foot, I think, yeah.
So that's.
All right. Bring it to the vote,
Trifecta.
Brian?
Yes.
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 Okay?
Yes.
Yes. Number 7, 168 Willow Street, Attorney Fallon presented this. Franzen also spoke. It's to remove and rebuild the barn. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Brian, is there a second? Thank you, Terry. Discussion?
It's a reasonable request.
Well, I have a question. This is a rear lot, so it could never have a residence on it. Is that correct?
I don't know.
The rear
No,
lot?
they made it tougher on them flag lots years ago, right?
This is not an approved building lot.
Okay.
Because it's a rear lot.
Yeah, it was never an approved building lot.
Right, so it can never have, just like.
They would have to come before this board to get it approved.
Right, so right now, it's just gonna be used for
It's a barn.
a garage.
It's a barn.
Barn implies animals.
Either way, it's,
I don't think you're putting plastic cars in an unclimatized or
No,
expensive
but it's.
cars in an unclimatized barn.
I have my own runners, no.
I built one of those barns, very good company.
No, I'm saying it's
Oh.
lovely stuff, right? But the remedy is to combine lots, so is that a reason to deny it?
No, I don't think so. I mean, whether it's a garage or a barn, it's
No,
an
but-
accessory structure.
Right, but if they're asking that we give a variance so that it's an accessory structure on its own lot, the remedy is to, since they own the property next door, to just combine the lots into one, which is not, but it is a remedy.
Correct.
Is there any downside to just having an accessory building
I don't think so.
on a lot?
I can't, I mean,
No.
Unless I know.
I'm just saying that the only people who'd be interested in purchasing would be other adjacent properties, unless somebody wanted.
Oh, the cow.
Someone with a horse, someone with a cow, someone with a really spoiled dog.
Alright.
Fine?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Number 8, 552 Knapp Highway, Mr. Garofoli, presented the application, to, construct a 2-story, second-floor addition, open covered porch. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
No,
Okay.
no, sorry.
Is there a second?
Katie.
Second.
Thank you, Terry. All right, discussion.
I think it's a reasonable request. I know it's a tough lot. My understanding, based on the reading, is that the 15-foot objection by the reduction of 15 feet, or moving back from 15 feet, or reducing it from 15 feet is not the reality. The reality is it's reducing it from 5.4 to 5.1 feet, or it's getting about 4 inches closer. Is that
We're adding that garage.
right?
So the regular house was 11, and they're adding the garage, so it is being reduced down from that.
Like up.
And it's going 2 stories.
It's going up. It's only
It's going, you're
a
right,
few inches over, but it's going up, which is.
right.
That's that's the issue, and I expect the neighbor, the front of this lot, is supposed to have 20,000 square feet, only has 5,000.
Right.
Other than picking up and moving the house one way or the other, moving it forward, where the garage would be adjacent to the house, which Mattson wants the garage to move forward.
You get to the bedroom, upstairs.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
Put it on stilts, and then somehow get there. That wouldn't make sense, and then we'd probably have a lot coverage issue as well. More of a lot coverage issue, because you would have to be taking up the space for the garage up front, and then the area in the back, which would be connecting.
Right.
It's a tough call on it, but I think the property qualifies on it, based on its shape. Familiar, I coach soccer over there for 4 of my daughters. It's kind of hard to put something on that side, on the other side, because you totally took the whole place, the whole building. It would be nice if, Secure Photos did something to soften it, if we grant. That'd be a good neighborly thing to do, to trees and landscaping or something like that. But those are just my comments, so. Anything else?
Nope.
You took a vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. On number 9, 990 Mill Hill Terrace, petition of the, Flynn presented this. It's to construct a 1 and 2-story addition, relocate Bilco door. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second? Thank you. Discussion?
I think it's a reasonable request.
Come up with a new line.
It's like, they're asking for something that's not outside it's not a nuisance, it's not a detriment to the neighborhood, it's in keeps with the neighborhood, it makes the property more useful.
Just interchange satisfactory.
Okay, I'll find it,
Let's get this thesaurus out.
Yeah.
Try to find something.
Council, could you bring a thesaurus next time you, show up?
All right. Well, we haven't been back together, so I'll have a couple little lines.
That's all right.
Yeah, it's also well under coverage in FAR.
Yeah, that's a 49 square that they have there.
Yeah.
It's about 100. All right, Ryan?
Yes.
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 Yes. Number 10, 44 Wakeman, Trinity Baptist Church, Mr. Garofalo presented this, adding that 3rd floor to the pastor's residence. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Ryan, for a second. Thank you, Terry. Discussion?
In the interest of my soul, I move that we approve without prejudice. Okay, it's a reasonable request, and I can't find any reason to fault otherwise.
Ryan?
Yes.
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 Yes. And number 11, last item, for business today, 112 Lally Boulevard, Wood End Development, and Patrick presented this to legitimize construction error. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Terry, thank you. Is there a second?
Katie?
Yes.
All right. Katie, you're on the board.
I'm on the record.
Discussion?
I don't think we can ask them to take the first steps off the front and the back of the house, because it would create a code problem, so move that we approve.
Top steps, they get a running start, they can jump the top step.
That's the pole vault.
All right, yes, I think it's what the FAR proposed and then matches, so we have a little calculation there. Brian Little?
Yes.
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 Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, everyone, for
Thank
tuning in, glad to be back.
They're staying on the table.